This is Acadiana's Morning News. Ian Ozan, Bernadette Lee on a beautiful Thursday morning. Happy you're with us. NFL Draft begins tonight. First round will be broadcast on ESPN, NFL Network. I think ABC is broadcasting it as well over their main network. But at any rate, NFL Draft is happening tonight, and it's time for part two of our conversation with NFL Draft analyst Mike Detiller. Today we take a look at Louisiana homegrown talent in the draft. Clemson's Travis Etienne expected to go in the first round. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns, former running backs Trey Regas and Elijah Mitchell in the draft. Regas from the New Orleans area. Mitchell, of course, from Erath, and a number of LSU players in the draft as well. So Mike will go over all of that with us during our interview. And, of course, the Mike Detiller interview brought to you by Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard in the Oil Center, right behind Champagne's. If you're looking for a good lunch place to go, check out Cafe Lola. Let's pivot off the New Orleans Saints for a moment, Mike, and take a look at Louisiana homegrown talent as a whole. And, of course, the biggest name on the draft board is running back Travis Etienne, the graduate of Jennings High School, lit up the board at Clemson from day one, got a national championship under his belt, and now will be in the top of the draft. And you look at the top of the draft board, the Jacksonville Jaguars at number one. Seemingly their owner is more concerned about running a wrestling promotion than he is about pro football, but that's beside the point. The Jets at 2, 49ers at 3, Falcons at 4. Do you see Etienne going in one of these top 4 spots?
No, Etienne's going to be a late first-round pick.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's not going to be an early pick. And he'll probably be the second running back selected after Najee Harris. The first Louisiana, Jamar Chase from LSU is going to be the first guy from Louisiana selected. And the second is going to be Devontae Smith from Alabama, who played at Emede High School. Travis is going to go late in round 1. It's just been a devaluation of the running back position, and we've seen it over the last few years that those guys don't normally get picked real high. Now, we saw it a few years back when Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey came out. Last year, where was the first running back pick? The last pick in the draft on round 1, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. One running back picked in round 1, and he was the 32nd pick. So I think Najee's a 20s pick. I think Travis, late 20s, early 30s pick. It's just the nature of the beast at this point, where I think teams feel as though if I'm going to use an early pick on a skilled player, it's either going to be quarterback or receiver. Now, this year's a little different because it's the highest ranked tight end I've done in 36 years in Kyle Pitts. A tight end. I've never had a tight end ranked this high. The guy that held that moniker for a long time is Tony Gonzalez. He's in Pro Football's Hall of Fame coming out of Cal. And now it's Pitts. And in my opinion, Jamar Chase, he's the best wide receiver I've ever seen come out of LSU. He's higher rated than Odell or Jarvis or Justin Jefferson and Michael Clayton, who was a really good player coming out of LSU. So you can see it's a receiver quarterback draft, and Travis is going to get picked a little bit later on in round 1, but I think it'll be later in round 1, and I think he's the second running back pick behind Najee Harris.
Mike Detiller on Acadiana's Morning News, brought to you by Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard in the Oil Center. Now, if Travis falls to the end of the first round, do you see the Saints taking a chance on him?
I would doubt it. You spent a lot of money, on Alvin Kamara. And, I just feel as though that's not the spot. I can load up all I can on offense, but, what am I going to do at cornerback? Okay, I got one guy there now in Marshawn Lattimore who's possibly facing suspension early in the season. So where do I go? I cut loose Jack Rabbit. He signed with the Titans. I got a 32, 33-year-old Patrick Robinson. Man, listen, I got to look at corner. That linebacker, tell me somebody who's got anything on the resume other than Demario Davis.
Nobody.
Okay, Zach Bond, I think he's got some skill set that I think can work in the NFL. And so I'm interested in his development. Chase Hansen, who I think is a good player, but he can't stay healthy. Caden Ellis, who's a 7th-round pick, special teams guy. Craig Robertson, you sort of know at this stage in his career what he can do and what he can't. And he's a really good special teams guy. But tell me the other linebacker, the other starter. Quan's still trying to get back over the injury. He's a free agent today. I think they'd like him back, but do you trust Quan can play 16 games? And Achilles injury years ago used to be a career killer. Not anymore. I work with the Thibodeau Regional Medical Center group, and those guys, it's unbelievable to watch these athletes who have the torn Achilles, and they back up and rolling, in 5 to 6 months, and they're training the entire time. It's the one thing that's changed the most for me personally in watching and evaluating players throughout this time frame is the medicals. How a knee injury guy can come back, or the broken ankle, or the broken leg, Achilles. It's amazing to see it today, and how medical science has just developed so quickly. But there are injuries that are sometimes really difficult to come back from, but it's really made unbelievable progress.
Mike Detiller on Acadiana's Morning News, brought to you by Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard in the Oil Center. Now, we talked about other homegrown talent. Tyler Shelvin, Northside High School guy, transferred to Notre Dame, then went to LSU. He's battled some weight issues, but towards the end, seemed as if he was in shape and playing at a high level. Do you see him at all going in the draft?
Yeah, I think he's a middle-round pick. I have great concerns about someone that big. And I'm talking about his long-term health. And because when he opted out last year, he was 380-something pounds at LSU.
Wow.
Now, you're talking about he lost 35 pounds. That would show up on most people a lot if you lose 35 pounds. On a 385-pound man to lose 35 pounds, you still 350 pounds. That's a lot of weight. And it's not a one-day issue with him. It's every day he's got to fight it. And it's something that he's going to have to deal with the rest of his life. The heavier he gets as a player, the less plays he can play. He becomes a leaner. Just doesn't have, the energy, and it sort of saps it out conditioning-wise. But in 2019, especially early on, he was a force in the middle because he's such a big man. He can occupy multiple blockers. He gets a good push up the middle. He's what I would call a forklift guy. Man, he gets under your pads and sort of picks you up and sort of throws you back into the lap of a quarterback. And he's not a great pass rusher, but he influences the quarterback because you can't walk into the launch pad. You got to move because of him. So, again, I think he's a middle-round pick, late third into the fourth round. But you're going to, he understands that he's got to manage his weight, his conditioning, everything else, and it's a lifelong battle for him. I'm always concerned about guys like that. I know some guys have been able to fight it and win, but to lose 35 pounds, did he lose it for pro day and then you pick it right back up afterwards? That part I don't know. I do know he's a big man who's talented, but I really worry about his health. And not only as a football player, as a human being, that you're concerned about that because of the stress your body goes through when you're that size.
Mike Detiller on Acadiana's Morning News, brought to you by Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard in the Oil Center. Other players of local interest, especially here in Lafayette, Trey Regas and Elijah Mitchell, the running back duo out of the University of Louisiana. They've declared for the draft. I would imagine their middle-round draft picks. Where do you see them going?
Well, I think Elijah's going to go first. And, again, what we saw this offseason, a little bit different than maybe others, is everybody's training for speed. And you see some of these times, it looks like they're trying out for the Olympics, the way they're running. And, for Elijah, he got his weight down because he played much closer to 220 than he did to 200. And he ran some great times, a very productive back. Always thought he was a vision, north-south, get-up-the-field guy. Knew how to find the end zone, has improved as a pass receiver coming out of the backfield. Now, he admitted afterwards, I know I'm going to put some of that weight back on. So, you get it. I always thought he had some giddy-up in the step, in that he could pull away from you. He had another gear he could in getting away from you. So I like that part of his game. He's been part of a rotation. He understands his role, and when you get that opportunity, you take full advantage. Doesn't he look like he should be a back for the 49ers? And how they run things, with that zone concept. To me, that's where I think he'd be a great fit in what they do. But he runs with power, but he showed certainly he's got some speed and he's improved as a receiver. Regas, man, he is your typical north-south power runner. Very, very difficult to tackle one-on-one. Powerful in the lower body. Gets a lot of yardage after initial contact. And so short yardage, red zone, that's a big plus for him. He's got to improve a little bit as a receiver coming out of the backfield and running routes. And, that's like everybody. If it's ATN, if it's Najee, whoever, it's a little bit different route concept. I think he's a little later round pick where I would put Elijah late third into the fourth round. I would put Regas fifth into the sixth round. So two really good football players, a little different, and yet both of them, when you watch them, how many times did you see them get hit back? They might have got hit and they went sideways.
But they never
rarely
got pushed back.
Falling back. They always sort of falling forward. And I like that in the back. Because some guys, you hit them, it's like, okay, you didn't run into a brick wall. You're not going anywhere else. Those guys are tough, hard-nosed, have played in some big games. And I like both of them. For me, would look a little differently depending on the team I had. But I think on a team like New Orleans or San Francisco or Green Bay, man, that would be a great fit for Elijah. I look at Regas, he more would fit for me to a team like Tampa, the Titans, the Patriots, Eagles, where a lot of things are get up the field, north-south. Not a lot of east-west stuff, north-south. So different style runners, but both really good players, both going to play in the National Football League.
Of course, that's Mike Detiller, MikeDetiller.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Detiller. You can also find him on Facebook. Just search his name, Mike Detiller, Detiller. Those are his thoughts on the Louisiana homegrown talent in the NFL draft. Remember, first round of the draft is tonight. Travis Etienne most likely is going in the first round. I think he'll go a little bit earlier than where Mike is projecting him, towards the bottom. But, hey, it's the draft. You never know who's going to do what. And as we mentioned, the Jacksonville Jaguars and one of their owners anyway, Tony Khan, is more interested in running a professional wrestling promotion, All Elite Wrestling, than he is in actual football. So the Jaguars may be picking at the top of the draft for the next few years. But
you got all choked up.
I got all choked up just talking about it. But Mike talked about local homegrown talent also on the website later today, because we'll be posting part 2 of the interview to the KPEL website in a few minutes. And we'll also post with it a second part that we couldn't run on air just because we didn't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the recurring gags of the NFL draft is the fans booing Commissioner Roger Goodell.
Mm-hmm.
This year, if you remember, last year, there were no fans, obviously, because of the pandemic. Everything was done virtually. This year, the draft will be held in a live location in Cleveland. Fans will be socially distanced, but there will still be watch parties. And I'd imagine there are microphones at those watch parties. And I wanted to ask him, how quickly would it take for Roger Goodell to get booed? I also asked, will we have a player who played for one of the Browns' rivals, whether it be the Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens or whoever, would we see a situation like we did a few years ago where a rival of that franchise would come up and essentially roast them? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referencing Drew Pearson's rant at the 2017 draft. Here it is, if you've never heard it.
All right. How about them Cowboys?
Keep in mind, he's doing this in Philadelphia.
I want to thank the Eagle fans for allowing me to have a career in the NFL. Thank you. I am honored as an undrafted free agent to be selected to make the Cowboys second-round draft pick. And on behalf of the five-time world champion Dallas Cowboys, Hall of Fame owner Jerry Jones, Gene Jones and the Jones family, Coach Jason Garrett, all the Cowboy players that played before me, that played with me, and played after me, with the second pick and the 60th pick in the second round, the Dallas Cowboys select defensive back from Colorado, Chidobe Awuzie.
Now, that was Drew Pearson getting some cheap heat from Philadelphia Eagles fans. Not to be outdone the next year, Philadelphia kicker David Akers, or former Philadelphia Eagles kicker David Akers, did the same thing to Cowboys fans in Dallas.
What's up, Dallas?
Kickers trolling the Cowboys.
Last year. I like standing up here before you as an undrafted free agent, representing that shield for 15 years. Tonight, I'm representing the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East champs, divisional champs, NFC champs, and world champs. The world champs. Hey, Dallas, the last time you were in the Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't born. Woo! Tonight, we are welcoming into the Eagles
Look at Doug
family
Peterson.
with the 49th pick in the 2018 draft. The NFL would like to represent the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goddard. He is the tight end from South Dakota State.
Now, you see, it doesn't have the same gravitas when a kicker does it. But that's where we're going. So when you listen to the bonus segment, that's the trash talk we're referencing. Drew Pearson, Dallas Cowboy great, who, by the way, is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer, trolling Eagles fans, and then Eagles kicker David Akers trolling Cowboys fans the next year. To keep the tradition going, and the next year, Pat McAfee did it, though McAfee was being McAfee when he was trolling Tennessee Titans fans. The tradition has to continue this year. So we asked Detillier if he thought anybody would troll the Cleveland Browns. We get his answer on that in the bonus segment that will be at KPEL965.com. Give us about an hour. We'll have both parts up. Again, MikeDetillier.com, at Mike Detiller on Twitter. Tomorrow, part 3 will be on the air. And we move away from the draft and we talk about the LSU sexual misconduct situation in terms of the athletic department and the football program. So we get to a heavier subject tomorrow. We'll pivot from the draft to the LSU situation. That's part 3 tomorrow right here on Acadiana's Morning News. And, of course, the Mike Detiller interviews brought to you by our friends at Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge in the Oil Center right behind Champagne's. And, look, if you're looking for a great lunch place, you can go there. You can order online, cafelolalafayette.com. You can give them a call and make your order you can give them a call and make your order by phone. All you have to do is call them at 235-4566, and they'll get you taken care for your lunch needs. Yum, yum, go get you some. Cafe Lola, they open at 10:30, they close at 2, and when you go, tell them I sent you. But they're the proud sponsors of the Mike Detiller interview, part 3 tomorrow. Part 1 is already online. Part 2 in the bonus segment will be coming in about an hour at KPEL965.com and the app Ooh, Lord, that was a lot.
Yes, it was. It's okay, though. It's fun.
It is. So we'll go ahead. We'll pause. We'll take a break. If we have time, we may do some quick...
Jill, we're going to talk with Jill Habits.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We have Jill Habits from Acadia Parish coming up. So no news headlines. Go to the website for them. We've got some good news on the way after these words of great importance. Cafe Lola in the Oil Center is the perfect spot for you to have lunch. Not only is it nestled in the heart of Lafayette, Cafe Lola has some of the freshest food around. If you want a crisp salad, they have it. How about a sandwich or a wrap? You can get that too. Have you had the Lola Burger, a third pounder topped with grilled mushrooms, peppers, and onions? My mouth is watering just thinking about it. Or maybe you want something lighter. Try out their soup of the day and a cup of fresh fruit. It doesn't matter what you get. You can't go wrong with anything at Cafe Lola. Great food served by great people who treat you like family. That's Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard. You can eat in, you can order online, or place your order by phone. Give them a call, 235-4566, or order online at CafeLolaLafayette.com. That's Cafe Lola, 1155 Coolidge Boulevard in the heart of the Historic Oil Center, 235-4566, CafeLolaLafayette.com. Cafe Lola, when you go, tell them Ian sent you.
Breaking news, traffic troubles as they happen, and your Acadiana forecast. Just